Welcome, everyone. It's great to be back. The politics teacher and his students in this podcast will talk about three things, looking back to 2025 and looking ahead to 2026. It's been pretty momentous, really, hasn't it, politically, and especially so since the inauguration of Donald Trump. I wonder, just a quick run through, guys. What would be the three standout things for you from 2025? I'll ask Leah.
So my three standout things for me would be the youth protests in Nepal overthrowing the government, the rise in nationalism in the UK, and Trump's presidency as a whole.
Interesting.
I think
Carter?
for me too, the first
Oh,
would
sorry,
be
Piara.
for me too, the first would be Trump and the ructions that's caused in the US and globally. The most destabilizing presidency I think we'll see in a very long time. Social media and particularly X and the way in which this year we saw X developing an AI grok and the poisonous things that are going on that in that environment. And then, of course, Musk's stated ambition, which fits in with a US ambition now, it turns out, a government ambition of destabilizing European economies by supporting poison on his site. And then finally, this Labour government and the way in which they just can't seem to get hold of what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it, ineffective messaging, a lack of charisma. So even when they are doing interesting things, they don't know how to sell them and talk about them passionately. And then the constant flip-flopping on policies. Taxation around the budget is a good example. So for me, that's been a bit of a disaster. And a government that could, objectively speaking, speak to quite a good number of things that they've done well, just can't because it doesn't have the ability somehow.
It seems to have the Midas touch in reverse. Carter, what about you?
All right, I've got for my things the rise in populism in the UK. We see it on both sides of the political spectrum. And then I have the actions that various governments have taken against social media over the course of the last year. We got Online Safety Act, Australia banning it for under 16, so on. And then one thing I noticed last year is we had a real uptick in I don't know what to call it, yeah, political commentators. I'd say sort of figures like Nick Fuentes, Charlie Kirk before he passed. That sort of like type of person who comes on the internet and they say some outrageous things and they develop a following. So that kind of feeds into the social media thing of it. That's what I got.
Sure. And for me, guys, I've got the continuing conflicts around the world, but obviously particularly in Gaza, and now the stated genocide there, with the international community finally waking up to that, and obviously the Ukraine, where in spite of the supposed peace deals, we're still seeing huge loss of life and huge suffering. I do worry deeply about the rise of anti-immigration protests, and I found it quite unnerving to see that huge march on London. And yeah, from a kind of domestic politics, the and in my day, I've since following politics a long time, never seen the two parties so unpopular, and the rise of reform on the right, and the rise of the Greens on the left, really, and the prospect of something very, very, very different in the future. So I think we've got a fair bit of commonality. I wonder whether anybody wants to just focus on one of those issues and say why they think it was so significant.
I mean, I've got a couple of things to contend with a minor thing with you, which is this whole idea that the world has woken up to what happened in Gaza. I don't think we have. The world sort of stood by for a long time until Trump strong-armed the Israelis into calling a ceasefire.
Until Trump ended all conflicts globally.
I meant Piara. The world has woken up to it being a genocide.
Have we?
No.
Have we?
Okay.
I didn't follow that. But okay, I understand your point. There's been some movement on Gaza finally, some kind of shaky peace. And then I really disagree with Carter's, sorry to get into a disagreement here, but Carter's characterization of political commentators who create a following. What you're talking about are right-wing activists who create a following on Twitter mostly and other forms of social media, with their poisonous discourse, a discourse that is targeted at men, often white men, disenfranchised white men, and therefore has quite a good audience. These are not commentators.
It's significant politically, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it has, it evokes wider discussions about, the impact of grifting and just where we are getting our information from in the modern age. Independent journalism is it's much more respected than, say, traditional media now. So I think it is interesting that Carter views them as commentators, because to me as well, I just view them as people inciting violence and trying to make money.
Oh, I didn't want to just come out swinging like these disgusting human beings. But I'll treat it with a bit of tact.
They're political, though. I mean,
they are certainly political,
and they're commenting on politics. We might not.
They do certainly make comments.
We might find it extremely distasteful what they're saying, but they're gathering a following and they're gathering force. So,
oh lordy, if ever there was a centrist position, as long as they're interested in politics, it's positive.
So you don't look at things that you find distasteful. You say that they're not significant, they're not important because you find them distasteful.
No, they're significant, but how are we short of right-wing male populists who are feeding the dislocation that young white males have and are finding answers in far-right politics and blaming immigrants and others? I mean, is there a shortage of those people? What should we do? Pay attention to every one of them. It's a movement. There's a lot of them.
We need to understand it. If you don't understand it,
well, we do understand
it. How are you going to unsettle it?
We do understand it. I think everybody understands what Charlie Kirk did. And actually, how Charlie Kirk, I must say, was probably overappreciated because he just would go to campuses and have debates with people. In the end, the things he said to those people as part of those debates were pretty repulsive. So you can pull up a chair as he did in whichever university.
In your opinion?
No, I think this is the thing, Ian. You're feeding into the erosion.
No, I'm saying that other people would completely disagree with that.
Other people would completely disagree, but I think to describe some of the
views
things
are not valid.
When you let me speak, I'll explain. Okay. When you hear Charlie Kirk and Fuentes talking about the hateful things that they spoke about in the terms in which they spoke about, then you defend that. I think what you're then there talking about is a breakdown in the mainstream order, what we used to know as the liberal order, right? Things we agree on, that you don't hate others, that you don't incite violence towards others, that you have a committed and responsible perspective to public discourse. Charlie Kirk did not do that. He may have spoken to people openly, but the things he said were not in keeping with that sort of approach, right? So I'm surprised to hear you saying that what they said had value.
I didn't say
no one's saying they don't have the freedom to speak.
I didn't say it had value.
Yes, you did. No one said they don't have the freedom to speak.
It was important.
That's a different issue.
Understand it. I'm going to move us on. I'm going to move us on. Another issue that we think was especially significant in 25, and how come?
I'll talk about Nepal for a bit because I found it I was very happy about it, weirdly. So in early September of last year, the government banned 26 major media platforms, and and then people started protesting it. It was more broadly, it wasn't just the social media, it was more broadly about government corruption and economic distress and such. 76 people were killed and over 2,000 were injured. But as the result of it, the prime minister resigned. They appointed Nepal's first ever female prime minister as an interim leader until the democratic elections in March 2026. And I feel like it's really important in a time where everyone does feel quite powerless. Like I've certainly felt powerless. I felt like there's a million things going on and what can I do about it? But, seeing people, especially people my age, actually going out and protesting and it making a genuine huge difference on their country, I think it filled me and a lot of other young people with, I suppose, hope because if they can do it, why can't we? In a way.
And not the only country where we've seen that kind of rise of largely Gen Z, would you say?
Yeah, I'd say I'd say it is largely that Gen Z. I feel like a lot of my generation seems to be a little bit more clued on, but then I suppose that might just be the people I surround myself with. So I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure.
Okay.
It was interesting.
Um, I mean, looking at the bringing going back to the UK political scene, you were very critical of Labour, Piara, and obviously it was not a good year for Labour, putting it mildly. Where do you think they've gone wrong, and do you think this is kind of almost terminal?
I don't think I've been that critical, but what I have been critical about is the thing that I'm saying now, which is that, this sense of drift that you get of a government not in control, of a government that actually has. We were told they had a clear policy perspective, a clear route through getting through the mess that we were left in. But it seems that they just don't know how to put that across to the public. They can't connect with the public. So Starmer right now has the lowest opinion poll rating of any other sitting prime minister ever, including
Mm.
Liz Truss in her short period. That's quite stunning given the fact that the guy is clearly a decent person, clearly wants to do the best in this job, but he just can't. He just can't project that, and therefore he's then making statements that are in keeping with a kind of a centre right agenda that people don't understand. When he's sort of showing support for causes and ideas, and hasn't really taken the lead on many others. So Gaza is a good example. You know, the British were responsible for the British mandate in the whole of Palestine as it was. We have some responsibility as a former colonial power to at least call out the truth when it's taking place. And we just didn't do that. We just weren't clear enough on how we could how policy wise we could see a way forward to peace, and for two states to live together. Now that agenda has moved on for many people on the right. There will be no two-state solution. It will be a one-state solution with Israel leading and the Palestinians either being moved out slowly or being a minority in a greater Israel. That was really very bad. And then you balance that with the need to address anti-Semitism. It's doable. That's the sort of thing you expect from the centre left. It's the sort of thing that we know we have the intellectual capability to balance, but he just hasn't been able to do it. That on 100 other things, the budget, the lead up to the budget was so messy, so disastrous. And in the end, I think people have got contempt for them in a way that probably they don't deserve, but their public utterances, their lack of ability to get out there, means that they will continue to mess up in this way. And for the first time in a long time, if ever, I don't really know Labour Party history that well, there will be calls, I think, for him to step down and a replacement step up. We don't know who that will be. Everyone hopes it's Andy Burnham. Somehow he gets into Parliament. There are MPs queuing up in the Northwest to give him their seat. But that seems to be the only way that can work now going forward.
Sure. I mean, Carter, you were kind of quite interested, weren't you, in the rise of the third and other parties? Do you think that's something that is here to stay?
If you want my honest opinion, I think that the Lib Dems are here to stay. I don't think the same about Greens and Reform. I think that Polanski and Farage are going to fizzle out over the next year or so. And when they're gone, who's going to replace them? That's the thing.
I disagree by quite a lot. I mean, Farage, I do think he will hopefully eventually fizzle out. But I mean, the thing, like, Farage is going to fizzle out because he has nothing to back what he's saying. You know, he doesn't have any actual genuine policies that are going to change the country or help them. I mean, look how much his councils are failing. Then you look at Polanski, he's got genuine policies that he wants to enforce. And I think I don't like, as much as I understand they both use populism, I don't really think they can both be compared because they are very different levels. And I'd say one of them is a much better politician than the other. But yeah, carry on. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, it's all right, man. I don't think we'll ever agree on the Polanski issue, the two of us. I can't stand the bloke, I'll be honest. I just cannot stand him.
Okay, I'm going to chip in with.
I do have an issue with one of the ones. I did hear that Zach Polanski wants to legalize all drugs. I heard that at one point.
Yeah.
Decriminalize.
Decriminalize,
which
not
is
fully
legalizing.
legalize.
Yeah, it is legalizing, and it's a positive thing.
Yeah,
it's a very positive thing.
There are many
I don't
people
really
who
trust
that
that.
agree with that.
I don't really trust the idea of decriminalizing drugs. That's just me.
I'm gonna cut you off there, Carter. Sorry, but
That's fair.
moving on. I do think that we should mention, talking about domestic politics, the Conservative Party, who have seen record lows, even lower than Labour, and it appeared hopeless probably until the budget, when Badenoch at least salvaged some kind of support and credibility for the first time, and who knows, we could see the Conservatives increase popularity again, maybe at the expense of reform.
Yeah, I think
we've seen the death of the Conservative Party, and that would be fascinating to see in the next year. I'm going to move us on. I'm going to move us on to 2026, and we have, I think, talked about what we have as our concerns and our hopes for 26. Rather than going through the lists, what would stand out for people here in terms of a main concern, perhaps, about the way that the world is changing at the moment, and what could happen?
I mean, for me personally, like, as in my own personal life, I mean, I graduate this year, 2026. I'm worried about it. A lot of my friends that graduated last year still haven't found a job, or at least a job in their field. You know, graduate unemployment rate, I think, is about 6% or something. You know, each year it seems that there's more and more graduate roles decreasing, and especially with the introduction of AI. I just there's nowhere near enough jobs for the amount of students that universities are pumping out. And then that then goes further on to the cost of living crisis, you know, in general, worrying about when I'm going to be able to afford a house, or if I'm ever going to be able to afford one, or just generally being able to support myself to have a decent standard of living with the current options that are open to me with a degree.
Is there any ground for optimism from you and friends? And
I mean, Trump could not be president. That would,
No,
he could.
I meant in terms of changing that situation, a
Um,
more hopeful situation for young people, changing
uh,
policies that would engineer.
changing policies. I mean, the thing is, the AI train has started. It's not going to stop.
No.
And if there is cheap labor to be found, they're going to go for it. It's the toils of capitalism.
About you, Piara, what's your thoughts about 2026 and any major concerns, worries that you have?
I think in terms of worries, it comes back to Trump for me, and the juxtaposition of Trump and the the use of social media um, to manipulate us, the stated ambition of the Trump government in their national security strategy that was launched in what, November or December, certainly came to our attention in December, in which they target Europe as the primary focus and feel that Europe isn't what it should be, and in order to make it what it should be, they want to work hard to bring about governments that are of the far right. So in Germany, the AfD; in France, Front National; and the UK, Farage, and if Musk has anything to do with it, a Tommy Robinson coalition. Now that means that the greatest friend of this country, the greatest ally of this country, a country that probably is the closest ally still, given the warm reception that Starmer keeps giving Trump, suddenly we are, along with other Europeans, an enemy of the US. And what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the global order? What does that mean for generations emerging? I think it's pretty serious stuff, actually. And this is another reason why, the Trump administration gives so many people the heebie-jeebies, so much cause for concern. Internally, it seems like, there's a whole load of stuff. We're talking, aren't we, in the week where a protester was shot in the face by ICE as she was legally monitoring deportations and the actions of ICE, and the week where he has threatened to invade Greenland and anywhere else, and a whole load of other countries, right? And a couple of weeks ago, he bombed Nigeria. So it's a mess, and this administration is the most poisonous we'll see, and it is cause for pessimism for me. And then you link that to social media. We know the next election at the moment is going to be the TikTok election. It will be decided by the TikTok generation and postings on TikTok. And we don't have a handle on any of this. We don't have the the tech companies, the AI resources. We don't have the investments out there, and we are way behind going into 2026 in the areas that we need to be, and a lot of it is going to be very destabilizing. Let's see what happens. But there's a lot of cause for pessimism. My optimism comes from I think the re-emergence of some ideas that those of us on the left anyway, hold quite precious, and you can see that personified by people like Mamdani. I'm not a big fan of Jack Polanski, but some of the direct ways in which he's speaking to his agenda is quite refreshing as well. But Mamdani, he's not a populist. He's now the mayor of New York, so he has to deliver. He's running a mayoral administration. He's not just spouting off, and let's see what he can deliver. And let's see. So far, it's been pretty interesting seeing his appointees to his to his city government. And seeing the focus that he's putting on, it's really been really interesting. So that for me is a sign of optimism. And then there's always little things, there are always, as people, we are naturally optimistic. That's one of the characteristics of being a human being, isn't it? And you meet people, you see their freshness of perspective, you read things and watch things, and you think, I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad to be a human being. And I'm looking forward more to that optimism. And then some of the big challenges that we have is being resolved through our efforts.
Yeah, politics is the art of the possible, and no matter how bleak things look, it is possible to change history. As Marx.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's why you're here, isn't it?
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Carter,
Mm.
you've been not strangely quiet because we've been rabbiting on. What about you for 26? Are you pessimistic or are you optimistic or a mixture of the two?
I mean, there is cause to be pessimistic, but personally, I don't think being pessimistic will do out. So I'd say I'm hopeful for 2026. There's a lot of bad stuff in the world, but I can't control it. I can't just go down to number 10 and chuck Starmer out on the street as much as I'd like to. So it's
So
just
what gives you
mainly
cause
about
for hope? What gives you cause for hope?
don't know. Honestly, I don't know. My indomitable human spirit
Okay.
mainly, but I just don't see a point. The world is a very negative place, but I don't see the point in being negative. There is no reason to be. Unless your life is truly terrible, yeah, it's just about chugging along. There'll always be another election, unless Starmer keeps cancelling them.
Right. Well, does anybody else want to add anything before we move on to our final question?
Well, this is just a little bit of fun I did. Not fun, but for the pod, I thought, 2025, it feels like Trump's been president forever, but he only got inaugurated on January 20th last year. So I've got a little list of how his year looked. So in January, he pulled the USA out of the World Health Organization and he suspended foreign aid. February, he removed trans people from the Stonewall Monument website and proposed that the US take over the Gaza Strip, and he also called Zelensky a dictator. March, he spoke about potentially seeking a third term. April, he started the tariff war and declared a national emergency on US trade.
Liberation
Ma-
Day.
yeah. May, he claimed that his tax bill cut everyone's taxes, but he actually raised them for the poor. Um, June, he had the military/birthday parade that no one showed up to. July, he authorised National Guard and ICE in about 20 states to process immigrants prior to detention. August, he met with Putin and then suggested that Ukraine should cede territory to him. September, he was met with large protests at his UK state visit, and the government shutdown started. October, he deployed the National Guard and met with a No Kings protest. November, he claimed that $20 trillion was invested in the US in 1 year, which has been widely dismissed by fact checkers, and it's implausible and unsupported. It's just lying. And then December, to finish the year, he renamed the Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center, and then seized oil tankers from Venezuela. And just to wrap it up, on Christmas Day, he bombed Nigeria. So that's a lovely little year of Trump.
Do you know the
4 more
12
years.
days of Christmas? It sounds like the 12 months since Christmas Donald Trump gave to me. God, what
Yeah.
a list.
He
That
certainly
brings us
hasn't had
to
a
the
boring
sorry.
presidency.
That brings us to the Fredo moment of the week. Do we have a Fredo moment of the week? And thank you for that very interesting and well researched and frightening list, Leah.
I have one, but I feel like I've spoken too much. Does anyone else have one?
Fredo is your thing, isn't it?
Okay.
Mm.
Well, Well, December 26th is a very special day to me because I love a sale. I adore them. It's my favourite thing on this earth. Um, I was at my grandparents' in the morning saying hi, and then I checked for the buses. There was no buses on, which already they're usually on at least Sunday service. And then so I had to walk an hour into town, and basically nowhere was open, and two, the sales were ridiculous. It was basically full price. There was I came out with £100 of Christmas money and I left with probably about 90 still. I decided to just go home. Boxing Day is not Boxing Day anymore.
Well, that was a bargain.
There was no bargains. I got a
No, the
matcha.
bargain was you didn't spend anything.
Yeah.
That's the
Leah,
boring.
for the sales, did you try looking online?
Yeah, I did, but again, online, it's companies now. I just feel like they up the prices, and then Boxing Day comes and they lower them to the original price, and I'm like, right, great.
But yeah, I've had a great few weeks on Vinted.
Oh well, Vinted's different. I love Vinted. It's great all year.
I could never be
Right.
bothered making an account for Vinted. I know it takes like 20 seconds. I just couldn't.
On that note, thank you, everyone. We have been a politics teacher and his students looking back at 2025 and looking ahead to 2026. And we look forward to our next podcast.
But we didn't talk about you and me having to join the military. It's that type of year, isn't it?
We do?
We do, apparently.
Fuck that. I'm not dying for Keir Starmer.